Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show as usual today. It didn't start out to be the best day. Guess what happened today? You know, we started out trying to post to our Facebook page, the facebook.com/Politics Done Right. And would you know that it refused to accept our postings, our own page? So I'm wondering, is the FBI, the CIA, and all these guys out to get us? I don't think so. There must be a glitch. I have a report out to Facebook, so hopefully they'll take care of that. But you know what we found out in the process? Kind of way around it. Certain applications can post, certain won't. So we actually noticed that it's live. So we're happy that it's on Facebook. But you know, we're also on Twitch. We're also on Twitter, meaning Periscope, and we're also on on YouTube. So, you know what? You have to have all these avenues these days, and we also on email. Good old email. You know, we have our stuff posted there all the time. Anyhow, we're gonna have a great show for you today. Thank you so kindly for those of you who are already here. If you're just getting here, I ask you so kindly to please share right away. Also, it's a call-in show. I don't have a guest that's going to be interviewed today, so we have some videos, different videos I pull out from MSNBC and other places to show you. But other than that, I'd love to hear from some of you. So give us a call at 346-248-7799, and the ID to get in is 254-600-9091. Again, telephone number 346-248-7799, and the ID code 254-600-9091. And I think what I better do is I'll go ahead and put that into the feed as well. So what I'll do is I'll pick that up as we go and make sure to have all of that information in there for you. So as I pick that up and put that in there, please consider giving us a call. I would love to hear from some of you. Here it is right there in the feed. So I just placed it in the feed. If you're on facebook.com/Politics Done Right, you'll see it on Facebook. You'll see it on YouTube. You'll see it on Periscope, and you'll see it on Twitch. I just put that information in the feed. All right, folks. As you all know, yesterday I had a really good interview with Mr. Jonathan Simon. And Jonathan Simon figures the election, we have to be concerned about the machines, and we have to be concerned about all these things, right? And I agree with him. We don't know what's in the back end of the machines, and we also know that it is possible to rig the software, etc. But if the sentiment in all of America is that we are currently ruled by somebody who is inept and who just cannot get the job done, it'll be known if the numbers are off by too much, right? By too much, then it is clear that what's going to happen is people will realize the election is stolen. So usually elections that are stolen are usually stolen on the margins. So I mean, all the progressives, Democrats, and progressive Republicans, and all of these that are so concerned that somehow if the country doesn't really want Donald Trump anymore, somehow he's going to pull a rabbit out of the hat. Don't sit down and wait for that. It's not going to happen. Folks, if you're just joining us, I ask you so kindly, whether you're on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, or Facebook, please share this program now. And please, every time you come and join us, please remember to share the program. Those of you that are on YouTube, there's a magical thing called Super Chat. If you want to support us, you can do so as well. But anyhow, I don't want you to be concerned about losing. I mean, I was talking to Jonathan Simon, who wrote the book Code Red, about the possibility of what's happening in the election, and he was concerned. I'm saying, folks, no concern necessary. What is necessary is work. So let's go ahead and get busy and talk about what we're going to have this program about today. Let me get to the screen and then move it on to you. Title of the show today is, here's why Joe Biden should beat Donald Trump in 2020 election. No fear, just action. No fear, just action. You know, after the show yesterday, somebody called me and said, hey, I heard what you said, that even if he doesn't want to leave the White House, that somehow we'll just go ahead and get it done. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, look, yo soy de Panama. I'm from Panama. You know, when we think things don't go our way, I mean, except for when the U.S. bring the military and drop a lot of bombs on us or whatever down there, you know, we kind of make things happen, you know. I mean, so there's a sort of a symbiotic relationship between government and people and business, and you have to maintain that really tight balance. So even though Panama, people always say things like, and I'm talking about a lot of Central American and South American countries that actually are functional. People always talk about, hey, they don't make a lot of money and all that kind of stuff. It's true, but there's always that balance between business, government, and people, and everybody knows when they have to act. And America has never been in that state for long because it's a rich country. So it never had to do that. You know, yo sé que eres de Wisconsin, my brother Bruce. Before I get started, let me salute those that are already here. Michael Rudnan, welcome aboard. IVQ, Dimitri OG, bienvenido, hermano. And of course, there is my friend from Superfly. Hey, welcome aboard, Superfly. And Bruce Pollard, welcome aboard. Anybody else want me to throw their name out there? Just go ahead and para ver, vamos a comenzar. Anyhow, so the title, here's why Joe Biden should beat Donald Trump. And when I'm talking about Donald Trump, why he should beat him, I want to do this to you guys. Bingo! That's who he should beat. He should beat Donald Trump. Many continue to fear that Trump is going to pull one out of the hat again. There is no need for fear. We just need to be bold, strong, and go do the work. Timidity won't do. Let me tell you something, right? Like I was telling Jonathan yesterday, if you go ahead and you say, you hear all these media types on TV saying, we have to be concerned. If he loses, is he going to accept the election? If he loses, is he going to leave the White House? If he loses, is he going to send the secret police that he has out there in the streets in Portland, and now he's talking about sending it to Chicago and New York? Is he going to leave or send those people off? You got to remember, those secret police and all of those guys as well, they are also Americans. And the military folks on these different bases, they are Americans. And the generals that already have come out several times against Donald Trump, they are Americans, right? If Donald Trump loses and somehow he thinks he can stay in office under some reason, if that is in your thoughts, you're actually saying that America is dead. Okay? And I, for one, from what I see and from those who I know and from what I read, it's not yet dead. I mean, it could get there, but it's not yet dead. And the recovery is very possible. Anyhow, so Joe Biden will beat Donald Trump in November 2020. It is a responsibility, however. It is the responsibility of us all to make it clear that Donald Trump is a clear and present danger. And when I say make it clear, I don't mean make it clear by singing to all of us, right? We all know that. A lot of you that are already here know Donald Trump is a clear and present danger. We have to be prophets. We have to be speakers. We have to be promoters. We have to be all these things at once. We have to use all the power within our social media, all the power within the people we meet at stores, at bakeries, everywhere. Now with coronavirus going on, with your mask on, of course, and talk. You know, I was going to show a little talk I had with several years ago during the Tea Party days. And I'm putting that in the book that I write it. I just wrote that chapter last night. And, you know, was bringing back memories of things that I've gone through with talking to people. And, you know, I always engaged with the Tea Party. And I met the people, the descendants of Daniel Boone, who live somewhere in Katy or somewhere in West Houston or back there. I went to this bar, this rinky-dinky bar that they were hanging out at. I was doing a lot of work with the iReports at CNN then. And one of the people who worked at CNN said, Egberto, why don't you meet a friend of mine who is a friend of the Boones, who are putting on this huge Tea Party thing at this bar. Why don't you go there and meet them? And I'm like, okay, no problem. You know, that's the kind of stuff I like. I like to meet the militia guys and all of that, you know. So let's go do it. So I go out there, and I sat down. I said I was going to spend an hour there, go interview these guys about, it was during the Obamacare days and all of that. And these guys were all mad and, you know, nobody wants to do X, Y, Z. So I go down and I spoke to the son, the daddy, and the granddaddy, right? And it was an interesting conversation. And sometime I should have queued that up to play this here. I hear you, Dimitri. I should have queued that here. Because here's what happened. We started talking about Obamacare. They hated it. Government takeover, all that good stuff. We had the father, the middle guy, you know, the grandfather, the father, the son. The son didn't have health insurance. The father didn't have health insurance, and he had a pre-existing condition, and he had just changed jobs, and he, you know, and he was a private contractor. Actually, not a change job. He was a private contractor. His wife was a private contractor. Neither one of them had health insurance. And the granddaddy, well, he stayed quiet for most of the times, but I'll tell you why I tell you about that in the first place. But anyhow, so what happened? I'm talking to them about Obamacare and why it is that they, you know, what exactly is wrong with it. And one of the answers was, you see how they run the post office. The government can't even run the post office. How are they going to run healthcare? I prefer the private people to do it. I want to have my choices. And then I went into stories telling them exactly how the insurance companies working. And I ask a lot of questions. When I'm talking to these people, I let them answer the question. I ask the question in a lead-in fashion, and then they answer it. And generally, you know what? They usually give the correct answer. So these people on the right are just as smart as you are, just confused. But they're just as smart as you are. They're not dumb. And we ought to respect them as well, right? So I am talking to this guy, and he starts to agree with the things that I'm saying in the form that we're saying, and he finally turned against the private insurance companies as well in the conversation in his own way. And finally, when I asked the last question about, well, if this program did this for you, and this program did this for you, and it did not infringe on what you considered your freedom, you know, the Tea Party thing is about freedom, you know. When they talk about insurance, they like to talk about freedom. I want to be free. I want to be free to have the choice of insurance companies. That is like a black man saying, I want the choice. I want the freedom to have the choice of who is going to be my enslaver. Is it going to be Mr. Peter? Am I going to be called Peterson, Jackson, or Robinson? Am I going to be the son of Robin, the son of Peter, or the son of Jack? Okay? So, I mean, you sit down. That is what, when you support insurance, private insurance companies, right? And you call that freedom. What you're asking for is, who do you want to be your master? Who do you want to tell you which doctor you're going to use, which medicines you're going to take, which procedures you're going to do? Do you want it to be Aetna, Cigna, or the other? That's what your freedom is. And so when I started to explain to them, oh, you know, actually, there's something that they're fighting for at that time in the Obamacare. That was the public option. And the public option was going to compete with all these other private options. But if this public option said, hey, John, you can choose your doctor. Hey, John, you can choose your medicine. Hey, John, you can choose all these things. It doesn't cost more than these private ones that are telling you who you can use. Is that something that would talk to you? And the guy, you'll see it in I didn't cue that interview. I should have. Maybe I'll find it. Find it and play it. And he said, yeah, or something like, I don't remember exactly how he said it. But the thing about it is, during the conversation, in as much as he thought he had the upper hand because we had the reality behind what I was saying, he was actually agreed in his own way and realizing it, you know? And so what the reason I'm bringing that long runaround story is to point out that we have a lot of work to do. We don't have a lot of fear that we need to work with because we have what it is that these people want and are going to need, especially in this pandemic. Because a lot of people, 50 million, 40 million people unemployed right now, 5 million that have lost their health insurance for corporations. And do remember that the other 35 million people are the ones who didn't have insurance in the first place. And every single one of them that are now going to be having a coronavirus experience and having to buy the test themselves and having to buy all these things themselves are going to suddenly realize that the system is bankrupting them. And if Biden does what Biden did, and I want to show you guys what, well, beforehand, let me show you this. If Biden does what Biden did, and let me show you what Biden did. Because I listened to Biden yesterday in his speech, and I took out a little 2-point-something minute portion to play for you. And this part of Biden's stuff talks to everybody. If you're a Republican, if you're independent, whoever you are, this piece, I think, spoke very well to everybody. Check out Biden here, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
I know it's hard to think of a future when you're just trying to get through the crisis at hand. I know that the case of child care facilities across the nation is dire. People are looking for help desperately. And they've had to close their doors and lay off staff. And they're not getting the protective equipment they need to reopen. And the virus hotspots where they exist, and they exist all over the nation, they can't reopen at all. And we're in a child care emergency. And it didn't have to be this way. That's why I'm calling on the president to get the facilities and the resources and the equipment that are needed and get them to them now. Enough. Each day, the pandemic death toll grows. Each day, in some states, more people test positive than the day before. And each day, too many American workers are still out of work and losing hope. It's been reported by the president's staff that the president is, quote, not really working this anymore. He doesn't want to be distracted by it. Doesn't want to be distracted by it. His own staff admits that Donald Trump fails the most important test of being an American president, the duty to care for you, for all of us. You know, it's also been reported that he'll block any funding for more testing and tracing in the next COVID relief bill, which is being discussed right now on the floor of the United States Congress. Just as states report record cases and hospitalizations and deaths continue to rise, this man simply doesn't understand. He can't deal with our economic crisis without serving and saving and solving the public health crisis. For all his bluster about his expertise on the economy, he's unable to explain how it will actually help working families hit the hardest. You know, he's quit on you, and he's quit on this country. But this election is not just about him. It's about us. It's about you. It's about what we'll do, what a president's supposed to do. The president's supposed to care, to lead, to take responsibility, to never give up. That's what presidents are supposed to do.
Now, that I took that out of a speech that then he expanded on the policies that he's going to come out with. And I tell you what, Brother Trump has something right. And this is for Brother Rudnan here, because Brother Rudnan is always concerned that, well, we didn't get the progressive that we wanted running as a Democrat, and Brother Biden is not really progressive enough. And I always tell people, the president, it's not about the president, it's about the presidency and those who have his ears and those who put the fight in. I've always told folks that Obamacare was not the best, not because of Republicans. Republicans do not bear the wrath, should not bear the wrath for the deficiencies of Obamacare. That belongs solely on the hands, on the backs of the Democrats. It's important that we are honest. The Republicans don't believe in healthcare. They don't believe in policies. They don't believe in social policies to help. They believe in a false individualism for the people and socialism for corporations. In other words, everything is up to the corporation. That's why they always ask, how will that policy affect business? They never say, how does that policy affect humanity? So we never needed or should have never be concerned about the Republicans when it came to passing any type of social program. Here is the deal. Here is the deal. We had a few months when we had a veto-proof Senate. Veto-proof. We could have done whatever we wanted as far as Obamacare was concerned. And when people saw that within that first 2 years, that disaster that occurred in 2012, that disaster that occurred, I'm sorry, not 2012, in 2010, would have been averted, because they would have seen quickly that their lives would have been changed forever. We would have suddenly been our medical system would have suddenly started to become Scandinavia, where people would not lose their shirts for getting sick, and then they would not have gone back. They would not have gone back then. So, Democrats were responsible then for making sure at least there was a public option if they weren't going to go what Obama promised before he became president, which is, I do believe in a single-payer Medicare for all system. But again, you have to deal with Democrats who are being funded by pharma as well as being funded by insurance companies and otherwise. So we understand that they're, as stakeholders, everybody have a part, and it's interesting. But we also have to remember that many, let me see, I think I saw the word unions. I didn't read your message completely, but even unions had come out against Medicare for all type of things because they made some deal with corporations and their healthcare, which makes absolutely no sense. And it wasn't only Lieberman, Norman. It was more than Lieberman. It was that guy from Indiana as well. So let me tell you, we have to take the responsibility. And like I said, we gave Obama and the Democrats a break in 2009, 2010. And we are paying for that with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a result of a half-baked solution that was able to then be used around our necks. That is what really occurred. Now, we have Obama v. 2.0. And it's imperative for us, the progressives and the activists, not only Democratic activists, because I've spoken now to several Republicans, I can almost guarantee those folks that I talk to, those Tea Party folks, because of the way we actually carved out the definition of healthcare and other social programs. Even these guys agreed. Let me give you the conservative reason for socialized medicine. I'm not going to call it socialized medicine. I'm going to call it Medicare for all. Let me give you the conservative answer to that. The conservative answer to that is everybody in. What do I mean by everybody in? It's not a giveaway. Medicare for All says absolutely everybody who is paying taxes, working and paying taxes, has skin in the game. That's a Republican, self-sufficient kind of a thing. In other words, we don't want anybody to have a break. In the hate and the ideological hypocrisy that we had in Congress, when they got rid of the mandate, the individual mandate, in effect, they were saying, we are no longer asking you to be a responsible person and partake in what everybody believes in, because if you get sick or go to the doctor or get ill or whatever, you are going to be going to the hospital. And all of you in this room right now, all of you that are listening to me right now, will be paying for that freeloader. You see, Medicare for All says there are no freeloaders. Medicare for All says you working, you paying taxes. It's coming out of general fund. You're paying all kinds of taxes. So you're in it, baby. Your taxes are going up for everybody. Because all of us have skin in the game. You're just not giving your money to the insurance companies so that a few fat cats can get rich. You see, we have to change the argument and make sure and show where Medicare for All and all these subjects are not Republican or Democrat, conservative or liberal. They are individual and personal responsibilities. And that's what it is. But the corporations have these people brainwashed into thinking you're losing your freedom. In other words, choosing who is going to be your slave master is losing the freedom. Is Cigna going to be your slave master? Is who do you want to be your slave master? Who? Tell me who. You know? And those are the narratives. So when we go out and we say Joe Biden will beat Donald Trump, we use all those narratives to strangle Donald Trump. And we forget about Biden for all practical purposes. Because Biden is going to sing the darn centrist Democrat stuff. We're going to vote for him. But let him do his thing. Let him get the people he think he can get. Okay, let him do his thing. But progressives have to go out there and inform, enlighten, illustrate, talk. Because that is the way. Not assume, and respectfully that is. If you see me, in my head, as I'm talking to these three guys, and I looked at the date on that stuff. It was, I think, 2011 that we were having the same conversation, 2011. And I'm listening to me talking to these guys. And I'm like, wow, they're actually listening. They weren't hearing. They were listening. They were thinking. Because I didn't look at them and try to make them look stupid, I actually went, in fact, at part of the conversation, I said, man, some of the stuff that you believe in, I do too. I really do. And the daddy looked at me and he says, I was watching you. I saw that. Because it was a big meeting, right? And he's looking at me and he's like, this is a guy. The father said, I was watching you. I saw that you kind of liked some of the stuff we said. And I'm like, yeah. And that was the relationship building. So this book that I'm coming out with is like how to talk to the right wing. And the reason I want to get it out quickly is so that folks can see some of the experiences I have in talking to people and actually saying, these people, you're not asking them to become Democrats or progressives. You ain't asking them for that. You're asking them to vote for their daddy. You're asking them to vote for their kid. I'm asking them to vote for my daughter. You're asking them to vote for your daughter, your son. Make life better for everybody. That's what it's all about, right? And when you get there, when you start talking to these people in that realm, I'm telling you, it works. And then we also have to have the folks who put the president in his place, right? Chuck Todd did something like marvelous. Yesterday, the president gave a press conference. He realized as AVQ or Rudnan has been placing in the chat room that Biden is really ahead. Biden is really ahead for real. So he's scared. And so he's going to come out and give a talk. He's going to come out and speak. And the media, he thinks, going to eat all that he had to say up like they've constantly eat up before he got elected, right? Oh, we're going to listen to Donald Trump. And we're going to give Donald Trump all the press he needs. Well, they didn't do it this time. They went sometimes and listened to him, and sometimes they broke off and to do a fact check. I thought the most telling thing was how Chuck Todd started the press conference yesterday. I almost passed out. When does the President of the United States press conference get what is the word that I want to use? The entry into his press conference. When does it ever look like this? Check this out. When you have a press conference from a president who is a liar, then the entry should always start this way. And Meet the Press, Chuck Todd and Meet the Press Daily, they did a hell of an intro before the president started his newly started press conference on COVID-19. Check this out.
Discovering, because of all we've done, the risk to the American people remains very low. The CDC is advising the use of non-medical cloth face covering. I don't think I'm going to be doing it. Yeah, no, I don't take responsibility at all. No, we're against the Chinese virus. It's not racist at all. No, not at all. It comes from China. We had a broken system, and now we have a great system. We did all of this work, but when you read the phony stories, nobody acknowledges this. Everything we did was right.
What do you say to Americans who are watching you right now who are scared?
I say that you're a terrible reporter. That's what I say. So at the model show, hundreds of thousands of people are going to die. You know what I want to do? I want to come way under the model. I was never involved in a model, but at least this kind of a model. And supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do. And then I see the disinfectant. Is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? We're going to have a rough week. We're going to have maybe a little more than a week. But there's tremendous light at the end of that tunnel. Things are going really well. Again, light at the end of the tunnel.
Folks, we can't emphasize this strongly enough. It isn't a public health emergency that's bringing the president back to the White House briefing room at 5 p.m. today. It is a political emergency due to declining poll numbers. So with that said, we're going to bring you the president's remarks as soon as they begin. As the U.S. reels from a record-setting surge in virus cases over these last few weeks, hospitalizations are approaching record levels. Deaths have surpassed 140,000 as local communities scramble for the resources they need. And as the economy faces an historic and now prolonged crisis, we're going to make sure to bring you the proper context of these presidential remarks, and we will be fact-checking his comments in real time if we find it necessary. The president has tried to downplay the severity of this crisis. He's repeatedly made a number of misleading claims that are refuted simply by the data on your screen, and we will be putting up that data when necessary, as he may repeat some of these claims again. So let's be clear, the surge in cases cannot be explained away by an increase in testing. The surge in hospitalizations proves that this virus is a serious health risk, and the rise in deaths is only expected to get worse.
That is the best entry to a press conference by a president who's attempting to use the press conference not to do good, but to further his political career. Well, guess what? Meet the Press and Chuck Todd preempted him with all the negative he's done, with all his failures, and preempted any lie that he would have told. And it was successful. Man, when I saw that, I almost fell out of my seat. Because here's the thing. The president was late to the press conference, and I can understand why. I really think, he watches MSNBC because they are so far the most critical of him, right? I can imagine him, because he noticed he was reading. They didn't have it in teleprompter. They were reading the stuff, right? So I can imagine what went on there. Oh, my God, I can't use this because the chart's already on the screen. MSNBC has a damn chart on the screen. And then he goes and he says, oh, God, I can't use because he's already preempted all the lies the president is likely to tell. So you go out and say it, it's like, and he's going to fact check me in real time. Okay? Now, the thing about it is, Fox News wasn't doing that, right? But remember, so the sycophants only make up 30%, and the other 10% that makes up his 40% are those people who are like, I don't care if the country dies. Trump is making me money. So remember that. They're the sycophants, 30%, right? Those are the people that right now they can't see it. I mean, you're going to have to just about starve them before they actually say, oh my God, Trump is really bad. You know, because they'll always be able to say, it's not Trump starving me, it's the Democrats starving me. So Trump, let's vote for Trump. And Trump says, okay, I'm taking your money, though, I'm giving it to the rich folk. You know, I'm not exactly sure yet. I know how to get to a good percentage of the right-wingers, right? Because, again, like I said, these are intelligent people. Cultists can be intelligent and still be cultist. I have relatives that are extraordinarily smart. I shouldn't say relatives, it's probably relative. That is extraordinarily smart, but somehow can't shake Trump. And I think what it is when you mix either religion in there or hate, racism, hate, something with a big amount of passion. I think that is a magic. You have to mix something with the Trump sauce to get cultish, right? In the case of my family member, I think the church has everything to do with it. And in the case of some of those folk that I know don't go to church, the hate, you know, that racist hate that they've been able to instill in them, saying those people are taking away something that is yours, even though they're not taking away anything. And these people just had an illusion of what was theirs. Because in America, very little belongs to anybody. I always tell the story about, you know, a lot of people think, oh, I've been able to garner these particular bits of assets. Folks, by the way, if you're here with me, please remember, share these programs. If you're on Facebook, please share. If you are on YouTube, please share. And by the way, if you're on YouTube, you can always super chat me. Hit that $sign, super chat us, and keep this program strong and on the air. Before I continue, I got some more videos to show, but I need to go ahead and in the middle here and give my little quick promo, and then we'll move on from there. And that is, if you're, we as a network need your support, point blank. So I want to ask you to become supporters in one of many forms. You can become a supporter by joining our Patreon subscription levels. That you can go to politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. That's one way to become members. That's a preferred way that we ask you to become a member. You can also support us via PayPal, which is politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. Likewise, you can become a member on Facebook. We just got permission from Facebook to do that. You can go to politicsdoneright.com/Facebook. That's politicsdoneright.com/Facebook. And of course, you can shop at our store. And at the end of the program, I'll show you what you can shop for at the store, for some of the stuff that you can shop for at the store. But you can go to politicsdoneright.com/store. Okay. Like I said, you have to mix. You've got to mix something. Intelligent people can still be Trump sycophants, even the ones that aren't rich. The rich ones, they're not sycophants to anybody. They just look at the policy this particular president is going to get instituted, and they say, well, this policy is going to save me, so therefore I'm going to vote for this guy because it's good for my bottom line. And that's what it's all about. And there are a lot of people like that. They care nothing about anybody else other than their financial well-being. If you're just with us, please share the program on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the other places. If you're on YouTube, please do the same. So that's what they do. Now, when it comes to getting over that, I am not sure yet. I'm still experimenting with how to work with the sycophants. I haven't yet cracked that nut. That's a hard one. Norman says facts without faith. What did Norman says? I think he said, let me look that up because it was a good belief without facts, right? And I think the church teaches that, right? The church teaches belief without facts because, the things that they talk about, usually, generally speaking, is not reproducible for the average person to see, that is. Maybe somebody sees other things. I respect those people who see other things. That's, your thing. But when it comes to the other piece, Norman, it's not about belief without facts. The other piece, I think, has to do with a certain element within your psyche taking over your belief system, your fact-based system. In other words, you know that 1 + 1 is 2, but if saying 1 + 1 is 3 gets you that outcome that you screw that person, that your intrinsic homophobia, your intrinsic racism and all of that wants you to get over, you'll accept 1 + 1 = 3, knowing it's really not true, but that hate supersedes that. That is what I'm thinking. And my thing then is, how do you mitigate that, right? Even for the person who hates, I can solve that problem. You guys have heard me say things like, I have a lot of friends that are racist, and I love them. And you say, oh, you crazy. No. Because I understand, hate is something that you can also change, right? I mean, as a former homophobic person who had to be kicked in the ass to become, to get some senses, I understand that. The part that's difficult for me is that what you said, though, Norman, belief without facts. Because that is what you have to do in religion. And I don't know how to crack that one. That one you have to crack saying, I don't know how to do that one. That's a difficult one. But anyhow, I need to go to some more videos before we run out of time. The one that I want to show is, I think it is important for us to fight hard and say things the way they are. And Beto O'Rourke, I think, is going to be standing out in 2022. But what he's doing in 2020 is important. I saw an interview with him yesterday. And I'm trying to get an interview with Beto, by the way, guys. But I saw an interview with Beto last night. And I said, you know what? This is the way you have to speak about to win. For us to win Texas, both on the state level and the national level, this is the kind of talking you have to do. Check out Beto, and then we'll see it on the other side.
The United States has been hit hard by COVID. Texas, arguably harder than almost any other state right now, perhaps with the exception of Florida and Arizona. And then within Texas, the Rio Grande Valley, and particularly Hidalgo County, is just getting the stuffing knocked out of it. They're running out of beds and space in their hospitals and clinics. They're running out of nurses and doctors to take care of the patients. It's so bad that some ambulances are waiting up to 10 hours in order to discharge the patients that they picked up because there is no bed there to receive them. There's no longer space in the morgues, in the funeral homes, so they're stacking the bodies in refrigerated trucks right there. And as you pointed out, our governor, Greg Abbott, inexplicably will not only not issue a stay-at-home order for the state of Texas, he will not allow the county judge there, Richard Cortez, to issue one for Hidalgo County to save the lives of the people that he was sworn to serve and to represent. And I want to make sure this is not lost on your viewers. That county is 95% Mexican American. We know that Latinos and African Americans are disproportionately bearing the burden of COVID transmission that is out of control in the state of Texas. This governor, our governor, Greg Abbott, is choosing to allow people to die when he could choose to allow county judges to save their lives.
The reason I wanted to bring that up, he laid out the case of all the bad things that are happening to Texans, and all Texans without thinking about party. They're not thinking party. Beto is just talking. They are seeing it on TV. They're seeing the refrigerator trucks. They're seeing people dying and all of that. And then he turns the story on to the governor not allowing these judges in these different counties to do what's necessary to save people, to save these people's lives. He never mentioned about these people being Democrats or anything, these judges being Democrats or otherwise. And then he goes in for the killer. Greg Abbott is allowing these people to die. And you know, I normally say our Republican Party is murdering Texans. I always say that. The Republican Party, they are murdering Texans, and we have to get, just like how the Republicans are usually good at getting over a narrative, these are the kinds of things that we have to repeat. I may be a bit harsh in saying the Republicans are murdering Texans, but the way he expressed it is, you know, just as good, right? In other words, you are causing these people to die. And you don't hear a lot of these politicians equate the policy to death. The policy to death. And that is why when I saw that, I'm like, Beto, that is exactly what we needed. We need the politicians to start laying that foundation, building that foundation slowly, so that by the time 2022 comes around, when it's time to take all these folks in the Texas Senate and the Texas Congress out of Texas House out of there, people start equating these are the sellers of death. These are the promoters of death. All these dead Texans that we had during the pandemic died because we didn't have the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care. They all died because we used ideology to keep cities open that should have closed for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks to mitigate this and move forward. We had the example, we just have to lay it out. And politicians for too long have been too timid to speak the way Beto just spoke. And Beto wasn't harsh at all. That sounded pretty placé. More placé than I do it, but very placé. And, you know, it was just fine. But the coup de grace, before I go ahead and start talking to you guys on the food, is what brother George Will had to say last night. And I think it's quite interesting because I'm starting to hear a whole lot of more centrist Republicans say this sort of thing. And, you know, George Will is not a centrist Republican. George Will is a Republican to the right, very much conservative, very much to the right. But here's how this interview went between him and Lawrence O'Donnell. Check this out.
George Will has gone all the way. 4 years ago, the Pulitzer Prize-winning conservative columnist publicly left the Republican Party when Donald Trump won the Republican presidential nomination. George Will has given us some of the most beautiful anti-Trump prose of the last 4 years. Those years have now turned him completely anti-Republican Party after George Will suffered a series of disappointments watching Republicans in the House and Senate bend to Donald Trump's will. In a recent column, George Will wrote, "The nation's floundering government is now administered by a gangster regime." And yesterday, George Will surprised Susan Page in a discussion for the Aspen Institute when she asked him who he plans to vote for in November.
Who do you plan to vote for in November?
Biden.
Biden.
Oh, yes.
Have you voted for a Democrat before?
Never.
Joining us now is George F. Will, Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist and an MSNBC political analyst. And George, on this being your first 24 hours of publicly declaring you're willing to vote for a Democrat, I thought you might need kind of a friendly embrace from a place where that's welcome news. Tell us how you've gotten to this point and why your vote for Biden is important to you.
Well, the most important thing is to clear the ground so we can start over with American normal politics. On the 3rd of June, 2016, I stopped being a Republican. I did not stop being a conservative. I'm still proud of having voted for Goldwater in 64 and Reagan in 80 and 84. It's just that it seems to me it's time to get back to something like normal political argument. The day after Mr. Biden wins, what I am confident is going to be a decisive victory, I will be in the corner saying, oh gosh, we've got to stop some of these Biden policies. That's the job of a normal, loyal opposition. But what's happened is Donald Trump has cured me of the vice of presidential fastidiousness. I used to say, well, I can't vote for this guy because he's wrong on the capital gains tax. Can't vote for him because he's wrong on the top marginal tax rate. I don't care right now. Let's just get back, as I say, to something like normal politics. And if your party, Lawrence, had in the 1980s nominated Pat Moynihan, our friend. If in the 1970s they'd nominated Scoop Jackson, I would have a record of having voted for a Democrat before.
Oh, well, that's fascinating, because I saw in their discussion with Susan, you mentioned Pat Moynihan and made the point that everyone knows, of course, everyone in Washington knows that you have Democratic friends, you've had liberal friends. Pat Moynihan, the New York liberal, was your best friend. And it made me wonder, if you had been registered to vote in New York, would you have voted for your friend Daniel Patrick Moynihan for Senate?
Yes. Even though in 1976, when he first ran, he was running against another friend of mine, the incumbent senator, Jim Buckley, Bill Buckley's brother. They don't, as you know better, they don't come along like that very often. When they come along, grab the brass ring.
So, as you see this election, you're saying, you said to Susan yesterday, you believe that by 11 p.m. on election night, there are going to be so many George Wills, so many former Republican voters moving over, voting for Joe Biden, that we will be calling this for Joe Biden at 11 p.m. on election night.
In the Eastern and Central time zones, absolutely. Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. In the Eastern time zone, Florida, the largest swing state, North Carolina, another swing state. I'm not even counting out Georgia at this point, or Texas for that matter. The polls, Lawrence, have been remarkably stable this year. I don't think in any poll since January, getting a horse race between Trump and Biden, has Trump won. And it keeps widening. Now, I understand the polls can tighten somewhat. But who in America, after 3.5 years of this, is undecided? Let's have the election tomorrow and get on with things.
You mentioned to Susan yesterday that you don't like getting engaged in predictions like this, election night predictions like this. You called it risky but fun. How much fun is it now? Do you approach this with confidence? Because most Democrats I know are terribly worried that the magician Trump is going to pull some rabbit out of the hat and somehow pull off another electoral college win.
Well, I think a nervous Democrat is a good Democrat in 2020. Because the Democrats have shown that they can do really weird things, like failing to campaign in Wisconsin in 2016. But I think even Democrats are educable, and they've learned their lesson, and they will run a wiser campaign this year.
Now, I mean, he said something very important there. And when he goes ahead and he said, all we had to have done is to make sure and campaign in Wisconsin. He forgot to also say Michigan. We only lost Michigan by, 20,000 votes or so, which would have, that campaigning would have gotten those 20,000 votes. Anyhow, now it's time for me to go to go ahead and talk to you guys. Michael Rudnan says something very important. Michael says, getting back to normal means business as usual, resulting in nothing being done about systemic racism, wealth inequality, or global warming. Rudnan, brother, listen to me. What I said, and I believe this in my core. Biden and the whole establishment, you are right in that is what they would expect to do. Status quo. It is up to us to prevent status quo. They're not going to give us anything. These guys are funded by a lot of the plutocracy. What do you expect them to do? What we have to do is remind people of something that is very, very important. What is very important is the following. Right now, they assume money, and I think Dimitri brought this up earlier, because of the Buckley-Valeo Supreme Court case that allowed Citizens United to flourish and all that good stuff to occur, which made money, speech. Look, money is not speech. It is not. Now, let me tell you what gets people's attention. When Americans realize that money cannot buy a vote, when Americans realize that their vote actually matters. In other words, remember what I told you earlier on, the talking that I do to people that don't think like me. The reason I do it is I don't want to just speak to the choir. You guys ask me, why do I keep all these conservatives that continue to follow politics done right and comment and make statements that we disagree with? Why don't you ban them? Because that's not the goal. The goal is me banning them allows the plutocracy to give them a message to elect people like Trump and others that vote against our interest. My thing is to start building that alliance with all of those people. Remember the motto of Politics Done Right. We're going to unite. It's a stereotypical statement, folks. For those of you who are here for the first time, it's stereotypical. But we intend to unite the barrios, the ghettos, and Appalachia. Look up the demographics of who is classified as living in those places. When we allow those people to realize that they are the ones who have things in common. They are the ones that have commonality. When they realize that, we win. Because at that point, you can throw all the money against these folks with advertising or whatever. They know that they don't have any money in the bank. They know that they have a student loan that they'll never be able to pay off. They know that they may not even been able to go to college. They know that their home is, after they're dead, their home is gone. They know all these things. They're living it. But people are putting other fears in them. If I can make you a racist, I can let you forget I'm picking your pocket, as Johnson would say. President Johnson of the 60s, that is. If I can put your mind on, and let me play this real quick, because this is exactly what Donald Trump is doing right now with the militias, right? With his secret army. And Brother Franken, Al Franken, former Senator Franken, got it just right. Check what he had to say.
This is scary. A paramilitary force is what this seems to be in American cities. I don't know if this is, at best, it's maybe a distraction, at worst, a provocation, and it's just to detract from COVID, which he has.
And that's exactly what it is, to distract from COVID. And COVID is what has his numbers down. And we have to make sure that a lot of other things have his numbers down. I'm at 3:58 right now, so I've got to go. But folks, look, thank you for commenting. Thank you for speaking. Thank you for all the information that you put out there, because we have to win this together. For the links that you guys have placed in there, I'll make sure to go there. One more time, I'm going to go through the list of new people that have come in. Welcome aboard, Donna White. Thank you for being here. I think I got to Timidity, Rudnan. I got to Gef Abul. Welcome aboard. Marley Teles, or Marie Teles. Thank you for being here. Para ver, ¿quién más está aquí? Norman Reynolds, I think I got to you already as well. Who else is here? I also saw, let's see. Dimitri, I got you. Lee Grant, welcome aboard. Bruce, welcome aboard. Superfly, welcome aboard. And if I missed you, forgive me. If I miss you, do forgive me. Guys, thank you so kindly for spending the time with me. I know that you have places that you could be, and the fact that you're being here with me honors me. I appreciate that I'm quite happy about that. My name is Egberto Willies, and by the way, on the screen right now, scrolling all the things you can get at our store, which is our books, or teacups, or T-shirts, all those things that have Politics Done Right. We support progressive media, we support independent media, all that kind of stuff. Please grab you something at the store, and we are going to be out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EG BERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.